So right now, I want to bring Graham Renz from the Show Me Institute into the discussion. They've taken, one of my favorite pet peeves is when I'll talk to people, hey, what are you going to do today? Oh, we're going to go to the zoo. We love the St. Louis Zoo. We want to come and go to the zoo. The best thing about the zoo is it's free. At which point I always just look at them and say, it's not free. If you pay taxes, you're paying for the zoo. And I know there were recently discussions when it comes to funding about, I think they rejected the idea of charging an admission price of some sort, but they're always looking for more money for the zoo. And I understand they have operating expenses. Graham's been taking a look at this. There's some new legislation that is pending that might help them out financially if something like that was to get passed.
Yeah, that's right, Mark, and thanks for having me on.
Sure.
So at the state level right now, there's legislation going through that would give local St. Louis area counties the ability to put forth a new sales tax proposal. So right now, folks in St. Louis City and St. Louis County pay a property tax that funds about a third of the zoo's annual operations. And this legislation would allow voters in St. Louis County and St. Louis City, along with St. Charles, Franklin, and Jefferson counties, to consider up to a 1/8 cent sales tax that would give more funding to the zoo on top of the already existing taxes.
So what currently exists is referred to as a special taxing district. Is that correct?
Yep, it's called the Museum Zoological District.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yep, and so that levies property taxes, and this new proposal would allow for an additional sales tax. It would raise, if all these areas voted for it, whenever that would be, it would raise tens of millions of dollars. So we're talking a big chunk of change. And part of the issue that folks say right now is that, funding for the zoo is unfair, right? It's not fair for folks in St. Louis City, St. Louis County to pay this property tax and have everybody in these surrounding counties and from elsewhere come to the zoo for free and not pay a dime. And so the proposal is at least motivated by that. Say we need to get more people in the area to help pay for the zoo. And the question that I think we really need to ask is, it's important that the zoo has the funding it needs, and it's important that it can do the things that it needs to do and that the public wants it to do. But we need to be sure that we're not trying to fix an unfair situation by creating a more unfair situation. What's unfair is that folks are paying for the zoo right now, and they might not go to the zoo, they may, right? But they're paying for everybody to go to the zoo. To make that unfair situation more unfair through taxing more people who may or may not go to the zoo isn't the right way to get more funding for the zoo.
Yeah, I've seen them float proposals in the past to try to get Jefferson and St. Charles counties to vote on being included in that taxing district. And, of course, people out there were, like, raising their eyebrows like, well, why would we want to do that? I want to give people just some perspective here. I grew up in Cincinnati. I used to love to go to the Cincinnati Zoo. It's a great zoo, right? But now, today, if you go to the Cincinnati Zoo, it's $26 for adults to get in. If you buy them online, it's $26. At the gate, it's $28. And it's $21 for children to get in. Or seniors. So for like every visit you go there, you can buy a pack of tickets and probably get a discount. But if you just show up in Cincinnati and want to go to the zoo, you got a family of 4 or 5, you're laying out $100 just an admission to get in. It's like Disneyland. So I'm not saying it's a bad idea that we have this taxing district. And maybe if it was a sales tax, everybody who enjoys the zoo is chipping in as opposed to just property owners. Yes. Is that the thought process?
Well, I think I'm not quite sure what the thought process is. It looks like, right, their sales taxes are easy to collect and they generate a ton of revenue. And so that's why they're the target for a lot of proposals. That's why in St. Louis County, it's for public safety right now. In St. Louis City, there's going to be a MetroLink proposal looking for sales taxes. So it's a lot of money and it's easy money. But still, I live way out in New Melly in St. Charles County. To me, it doesn't make sense. I go to the zoo sometimes, but if I'm not going to go this summer, why should I help pay for the zoo? Why should anybody help pay for the zoo when they're buying wine at in Augusta or Defiance? It doesn't make sense to make people pay for the zoo if they're never going to go. And the solution to the free riders right now isn't to create a more unfair system that taxes more people who may or may not go to the zoo. That's just more unfairness for more people. There's a better way to do it, and it's to charge folks who use the zoo.
Well, it does. Is Science Center included in that because it's the museum zoo district, right?
Yep.
So the money wouldn't just benefit the zoo; it'd benefit both.
The existing property tax benefits all these institutions, Science Center included. This tax would focus just on the zoo.
Just on the. They're going to put gold-plated bars on the monkey cages. I mean, what the hell are they going to do with all the extra money?
That would be nice, right? No. So at least we're being told is that they have the zoo has $50 million in deferred maintenance.
Okay.
How they got that in that hole, I don't know. But they're in it. That's what we're being told. But the legislation is written such that the sales tax revenue can go towards pretty much anything. It can't go towards buying Grant's Farm, but research, conservation, any zoo-related activities is how it's written. So, there's no guarantee how money is spent. There would be a commission set up to decide how to spend the money, but it's a lot of money that can be used for a lot of things. It
would have to go to a vote. So here's my question. If it covers a 4-county area, would it have to pass in every county by a certain percentage or not happen at all?
Great question. Yeah, it's not an all or nothing proposition how it's written right now. So let's say folks in St. Charles wanted it and they approved it, the tax would go into effect there. But if in Jefferson County they don't pass it, it's not going to go into effect there. So there is some self-direction with this, which I think is a good thing. But like you say, there's a lot of great zoos out there that charge admission. San Diego Zoo is supposed to be the best zoo in the world, or at least in the country, and admission is over $40 to get in.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So, the issue isn't how do we get more revenue. It's what's the best way to get revenue. And, folks who are already paying this tax, that we don't need to charge them admission, right? And it doesn't necessarily need to be admission. We could raise prices on, food and drinks that are sold at the zoo. But the idea is to connect the use of the zoo, the cost of providing the zoo, to the folks who are consuming
who are using the zoo, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And of these area counties, St. Charles, Jefferson, they make up 13% of the zoo's attendance. So there's most of the people who were told are free riding. They're not in these counties. They're coming from outside the St. Louis region. They're coming from Illinois, right? So those are the folks who are imposing 50% of the costs on the zoo. We should be looking for them to help pay for it.
If you're in the sound of my voice and Graham and I bringing up the zoo has made you light up and say, hey, it's going to be in the 60s this afternoon. Let's go to the zoo. Don't. The Dogtown Parade for St. Patrick's Day is taking place today. You will not find parking within 10 miles of the St. Louis Zoo. Just don't do it. Free or not, you don't want to do it today. Unless you got some green beer with you that you can bribe somebody to get a parking place, right? Not that I'm encouraging drinking and driving. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, I don't know. I think I would almost. I mean, two good things. One good thing is it would have to be put to a vote, and each county could decide it separately if it ever got to that. And number two, I'd rather just see them charge a small admission fee, even if they went to $5 a person. I mean, something really low. That's still bringing a ton of money.
Hey, yeah, no, that's exactly right. There's about 3.5 million visitors to the zoo every year. For less than the cost of a Happy Meal, right? We're not going to just, we could generate millions and millions of dollars that can address these deferred maintenance needs and other needs. It's not going to deny access to, low-income families, right, who go to the zoo for free. The cost of a McDouble isn't going to prevent them from going to the zoo, right? And we're not going to squash attendance with a tiny fee like that. But it would generate tons of money, and it could help solve these issues without without having to resort to sales taxes.
I know I've run over a little bit, Graham, but who's sponsoring this? Is it a local legislator sponsoring it? Do you know?
You know what? I can't think of the name off the top of my head. It's Senate Bill 49, though. That's the name of the legislation. So
worth looking at. Call your legislator and tell them what you think about it. Graham Renz, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Always great information. Go to the showmeinstitute.org online. Check it out. All right, when we come back, Melanie Israel is going to join us. We're going to talk about the new ad campaign by Planned Parenthood to try to fight back against efforts to strip their funding out of this current budget. You're listening to The Mark Cox Show. We'll be right back.
All right. She moves in mysterious ways.
This is The Mark Cox Show. Air Comfort Service Heating and Cooling. Weather with Dave Murray.
Lots of clouds around. There'll be some scattered showers, maybe a rumble of thunder. The odds favoring the morning and early afternoon. It's a warm day, though. 69 for the high. Tonight, 38. The weekend, Saturday. Pretty day on Saturday, 55 degrees.